part of the All Everything Entertainment Podcasting Network.
Working Fans Podcast. Cool.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Coming down 3, 2.
Welcome back for another week of the Working Fans Podcast. This is AJ. I'm the former wrestler. We've got Dave, the ultimate fan, here with us. As we do every week, our producer Joe likes to make us sound good and makes us look way more professional than we actually are. As always, you can find us on Twitter, that's @FansWorking, Facebook, Working Fans Pod. We've got email where you can reach out to us and please contact us to let us know what you think of the podcast and for any ideas that you might have. That's workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. We're on Instagram where you can keep up with us at workingfanswrestling_pod. And then you can now listen to us on all major platforms, including Anchor.fm. We're on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Apple Podcasts, and you can actually check us out on YouTube. Now, it's important when you go onto the Apple Podcasts and YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a rating, let us know what you think so you can help us out and we can continue to do what we love and bring you guys in as fans.
Hey guys, this is Amber Nova, your American Muscle Pro wrestler, and I just tuned up the Working Fans Podcast.
All right, everybody, it's the Working Fans Podcast with the man they call Dave. And today we have a special guest. She is a former EMT. She is the proud daughter of a mechanic. She is a model/pro wrestler. And she has competed in companies such as Impact and WWE's NXT. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Amber Nova. Amber, how are you?
I'm doing great. That was excellent introduction, and I am ready to tune up this podcast. That got me I'm revved up now.
Awesome. I love it. Let's start off with that. You're very enthusiastic about being a daughter of a mechanic. This seems bad. Who was the mechanic? I don't want to assume. Was it your mom? Was it your dad? Or who was the mechanic?
Dad, yeah.
Now.
But hey, listen though, my mom is up on that car and still, she was still with me the last 2 years. She'd be up under the car helping my dad and right by his side. So yeah, ever since they were teenagers, they've been together. I think about 20 years now.
Awesome.
So yeah, my mom would do some stuff on the car as well. She had her own 62 Chevy Nova, and then she sold that not too long ago, but she had her own as well.
How did you, were you a wrestling fan? And was there somebody who was a wrestling fan that got you into it? How did that happen?
So yeah, Dad, ever since I was a kid, Dad would always have Monday Night Raw, whatever, WCW wrestling on, and when I was a kid, I just grew up watching it. And then the older I got, I continued to watch it, even when I was in the EMT. And that's when I saw these women coming up in the business, these young, beautiful, talented, and they weren't the size of China. So I was like, man, maybe I could do this. And yeah, I had a love for wrestling. I used to go to Savannah Civic Center with my sisters and friends growing up when we were little girls. And we would, I watched Rey Mysterio, Randy, Batista, and I see all these guys growing up. And then there you go. I decided to give it a try myself, and it turns out I'm physically, mentally capable of doing it. Not everyone is, too. They think this is an easy business, and it is not.
Definitely not. If you've been following it and you pay attention even, you're going to see things where you're like, oh, yeah, these guys put their bodies through a lot of damage.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Is that something, speaking of tuning up, do you do a lot of self-care, taking care of, your body, in the off time? Do you know, whether it's, chiropractor, massages, is that important? Is that part of your daily routine, or how's that?
Oh, absolutely. I go to my chiropractor that I've been seeing since I moved to Orlando 5 years ago at Orlando Sports Chiropractic. I go once a week. There were times where if my schedule was busy or I just couldn't get in, I would go a couple weeks or a week without going to the chiropractor. But since the pandemic and things slowing down and things opening back up, I go every week, and I've still been wrestling and training and doing some small shows here in Orlando. But yeah, self-care is super important. I stretch like crazy all the time. And they say, even little breaks throughout the day, just sitting down for a long period of time, you're working, just taking those few minutes to, do some stretches, touch your toes, stretch your spine out. I'm also a huge fan of hot yoga, Orlando Power Yoga. I do that here. My sweat stash, it's the best for your body. So, yeah, hot yoga, chiropractor, stretching, and I am a sucker for massages.
Same.
Don't get to start rubbing my shoulders. Yeah, if someone just starts rubbing my neck and my shoulders, I might just like spill secrets and stuff. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I definitely am big on taking care of my body because nobody really knows just how painful this really is unless you've done it yourself. And I'm telling you, it's 50%, it's 80% pain what we do. Don't get us wrong. Like we also, there's pleasure and we enjoy it, but a lot of pain.
Now, did you have an athletic background before this? Did you do any kind of sports or anything?
So yeah, growing up, I did volleyball, like when I was in middle school. I did county cheerleading squad as well around that time. And then my freshman year of high school, I made varsity cheerleading. And it was a nice accomplishment. I was the only other freshman to make varsity with the tryout. And I liked it. I stuck with it a bit, but I didn't like the drama that came along with some of it. And I guess I just was on a different path. So I didn't stick with cheerleading too long. I ended up leaving that. I did dance, we did theater. I wanted, a little taste of everything when I was in high school, so.
I mean, that's awesome. I mean, I imagine, theater and the athletic background is all kind of mixing into what you do now, so that's important, right? I mean.
Yeah, it does. It's definitely helpful having done a few of those things. So, yeah, but I wasn't like a gymnast or like a serious competitor or athlete growing up. I've just been gifted with a healthy body and genetics. Good parents, so. What
would you describe as the hardest part of being a pro wrestler? Is it the promos or is it the damage you take?
The hardest part of being a pro wrestler, I really want to say it's a lot of mental psychology, mentally, and what we do and making everything make sense of what you're doing in the ring when you're competing.
Yeah.
And obviously it's physical. It's 100% physical. I mean, you don't know what it's like till you really get in there and you start taking bumps, and then the next day you can't turn your neck. Like, I've gone through so many days where I can't turn my neck. It's so solid and stiff, and it's but why I say it's mental is because once you're physically feeling that pain, then it's all mental to push through it. Like, how bad do you want this? Because you don't make money at this for quite some time until you really can prove yourself. And the more you invest in yourself, the more other people are going to invest in you. And today, I see these wrestling schools today. I see a lot of these young guys coming in, and they think it's so easy. And I don't know, I guess I've seen a lot of young people complain here and there, but it's like, then you look at them and you go, well, how often are you in the gym? How often are you sacrificing time to make yourself appear and be a superstar? These guys dedicated their bodies in the gym and everything to look and be who they are. So I tell you, today it's not like it was for the guys coming up, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, because I've been able to learn from some of the greatest. Like, Hector Guerrero was just at my dojo, and I got to go out to dinner with him and his wife, Penny, and we talked. And this is not the first time I've gotten to train with Hector a few times. And that man is just full of so much wisdom. And when he talks and he smiles and talks about memories, it's like, man, like him and his brother Eddie, it's like the time for them when it came up with wrestling, like, it's a different world then, the time. I mean, it just sounds great. And then you watch it compared to now, it's so different. But yeah, just learning the evolution of where I am today with women's wrestling and just in wrestling in general compared to where they were.
Yeah, it definitely seems like there's a mindset that's different. Like, I think I was hearing someone debate this, like, you would not see, like, Bret Hart was so concerned about his character and how he was going to be portrayed, and there was this big creative thing, whereas, like, nowadays, like, I think they were saying, like, that would probably never happen. It would just be like, Vince or whoever's in charge was like, well, that's your finish, and that's it, and they'd be okay, no problem. Or it's like, like, it just seemed like there was a lot more concerned about the character aspect back in the day, at least.
I can see what you mean by that, protecting your identity.
Sure.
And protecting just your overall brand. Every wrestler out there, let's just say every superstar, they're building a brand for themselves. I'm my own brand. I want to say unique and individual compared to some other women that I separate myself from, and I have those qualities that are just so different and unique. And then these guys coming up, they're building their own brand, and they have that superstar quality to protect. So I see what you mean about that, yeah.
Who was involved in your initial training when you were breaking in?
I contacted the Team Vision Dojo, I believe, in wrestling school 5 years ago when I moved to Orlando. And, I've had the help of so many people out of that school. The most recent in the last few years was like Eva Lee, Loki. Lindsay Dorado was one of the first 5 years ago that was at my dojo helping train me before he got picked up to WWE. He's an Elite Kid House Party. I mean, just a ton of people I've gotten to work with out of that dojo. And then I got to branch off from there to other places. So yeah, that's where I started.
Now, how is working with Loki? He seems very professional and very all business and everything that like I've ever seen with him.
Yes, I really like his style, and I've gotten to just grapple around with him in the ring, and I love that. Just shooting on each other, kind of grappling, so we can get, so we can grab our holds, and that really just helps with his technique in wrestling. And he's great to work with. He really is. And then I've also learned from the older guys, like I was mentioning, Hector Guerrero, Scott Hall, Larry Zbyszko, a bunch of guys. And I've gotten to learn so many different types of styles, from old school to new style, that I can incorporate little pieces and create an Amber Nova.
Absolutely. No, I mean, that's right. You're trying to incorporate a little bit of everything and make this one style your own. I see that. That's awesome. You ended up at Impact Wrestling at one point. How did that happen, and how was your stay at Impact?
Yeah. So a lot of people think I was signed, and I wasn't signed to Impact. I was just paid per appearance, and I did a few of my very first TV matches there with Allie, who's now in AEW, and a few other women. Sienna, Sue Young, Taya Valkyrie, Rosemary. And that was my first TV experiences then. I was pretty new. I'd only been in business, I think, 2 years. I'd been doing matches for, I think, a year and a half. And Impact Wrestling was doing this TV tapings at Universal. They haven't been in Orlando for a few years now since then. And I got the opportunity through people that knew my trainers and recommended me. And all because I proved myself and my hard work and training. They recommended me, and I got to work with Gail Kim. She was my agent, and she's wonderful. And it was amazing. It was a really good experience. And from there, I worked for NXT. I've had 2 matches with them. Last year alone, I wrestled in 3 different countries. I went to London last June, then South Africa, and then Panama in 6 months' time. And I was just really, things are picking up. I was doing good with my international travel, and that was supposed to happen again this year. Unfortunately, the pandemic has slowed a few things down, but I'm just going to keep working hard for our TV contract.
Do you love to travel?
I do. It's a little scary, It's like, wow, I'm going all over the place, but it's exciting. It's exciting, scary. It's adventurous. The interactions I've had with the promotions and people I've met and worked in other countries have been amazing. The hospitality alone that they served me in South Africa, Panama, it's just really great. I've had good experiences.
No, that's awesome. And I would think, that's the thing you hear some people struggle with, is the travel. So if you embrace that and love that, I would think that would give you a leg up over some people.
I absolutely do. I'm not one to complain. I'm not one that, I didn't come from much. I've always worked for everything my whole life. Like I said, the daughter of a mechanic. My mom had 5 kids all around the same time, so we had to share everything. We weren't just spoiled, or it didn't come from money. So getting to have worked so hard up to this point where I'm making this money and I'm doing everything that I've wanted to do, set for myself, I'm proud. Obviously, I want to be signed to the big TV company and consistent with them, but if I can do this traveling on my own without them, then I think I'm doing a pretty damn good job of it so far.
And both companies are basically operating out of Florida right now, both major companies. So, I guess that's one thing with the pandemic. If you did get signed, there probably wouldn't be a lot of travel right away. You could, maybe get an opportunity. And then, hopefully, though, a couple months down the road, everything will be back to normal at some point, hopefully.
Yeah, we all hope for that, and we say that, but I don't think the world after this year will ever go back to normal. I feel like change did happen for the better. Like, the world needed to be a cleaner place. Like, I've always been a really clean person. I already had hand sanitizer, in my car for when I left the gas station right away. Like, I've always been really clean, but maybe the world needed this step, and then other things would happen. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of wondering, so when things open back up and WWE and WWE was traveling and doing their events again, it's going to be social distancing, are people still wearing masks, or is everyone crowded together like they used to be? And then are people going to feel comfortable being crowded like that, like they used to without masks on? It's so crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a lot of questions, right? If you get a vaccine,
it's going to take a lot of time.
I was thinking, even if you have a vaccine, are we going to be probably wearing bracelets and stuff to show that we have a vaccine before we go out? I don't know. It's going to be a different world.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Now, you're a model as well. Is it hard? Maybe not now, but or maybe it is. I don't know. Is it hard to balance the two? Was it? Is it easier now?
During the pandemic and during the shutdown, I'm a brand influencer, a brand ambassador for certain clothing companies, sportswear, and other things. And I wasn't able to do any shoots because you weren't able to go out. You know, it was a shutdown. You know, you weren't supposed to be out and about. A few weeks, you know, like in the month that the shutdown happened, I didn't do any photo shoots or things like that. And now I've actually had a little more time on my hands since I'm not traveling out of state and not wrestling shows as much, that I have been able to do more of my brand influencing and promotional stuff. So I've just been, I don't know, I'd like everybody just taking life as it is and working as hard as you can and doing what you can do and doing the best that you can do right now. And it's been going well, though.
You seem like you really like to keep busy. Was that always the case?
Yeah. Yes, I think I've always been a busybody. Like when I was an EMT, you know, I used to work 36-hour, 24-hour shifts with no sleep, just going and going. And wow. I worked a lot and liked it. And I saved up and decided I wanted to pursue some bigger dreams out there, and I've been doing it.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's amazing what you can do. Like, I mean, like for my line of work, like even today, like I think we're recording this interview right now. It's like in the noontime, and like I left my house at like 1:30 in the morning. I did my job that I normally do, and you know, I got home in the afternoon. Now we're doing this interview, and I got some other stuff lined up. But I mean, that's it, right? Like if you want to do something, whether it's podcasting, whether it's wrestling, whether it's being a model, I mean, like you gotta like, you know, you gotta sacrifice.
Yeah, you have to sacrifice, and I can't stress this enough to people that ask me for advice, coming into this business or any advice. It takes drive. And that's why I'm all about my Nova Drive. I'm all about I'm not just some car girl. I really invest in this and believe in it because it takes drive, it takes determination, it takes sacrifice. And I just can't stress that enough to people. If you want something, you have to be willing to sacrifice everything. I moved to Orlando with a Nova and a dream. That's it. No friends, no family. I didn't know anyone. And it was awful in the first year. It was rough. I'm beating the hell out of my body doing something that I didn't know was physically that awful at first. And because, I left my career job as an EMT where I used to transport people that were like paralyzed. And now I'm risking myself at this. And, there were days, like I said, I couldn't turn my neck, and it was rough. And then not knowing anyone and everything, but I didn't give up. And I just kept pushing through, and that first year was not easy. And second year came a little easier, and I got adjusted more and more. And now I just feel more and more aware that, I'm doing the right thing. That hard work does pay off, and you have to be willing to sacrifice yourself.
Yeah, it seems like the hardest part sometimes is like when you are struggling, is just mentally stepping through those doors, right? I just got to get there. Once I get there, we'll figure it out, right?
Especially this year alone. And then with the COVID and the pandemic, It is not a good time to be a wrestler or be in entertainment whatsoever for anybody. It's not easy on anyone in that industry right now. And then trying to stay afloat and pay your bills and get by, and then keep at it and not give up. Yeah, it's not easy. It's definitely a different time,
You hear a lot of times people will say they've been in business for a while. You got to be the wrestler. You're not playing wrestler. Be a wrestler. And I take that as like a mindset. So like when you're coming to the ring, is there like a certain mindset that you're in, and is there a certain way you prep yourself to get into that mindset?
I agree with that 100%, and I think that is like more depth to that than people know. Like what I was mentioning about the young people, just younger people than me or whoever coming into the business thinking, I can be a wrestler, it's easy, right? But then they don't see how much it really takes and the dedication. And yeah, you're not playing wrestler. Like my background, I've learned from Loki and my other trainers that are black belts, and I've learned some styles of jiu-jitsu, and I want to learn actual submission moves. I want to actually know how to shoot, to really wrestle, a lot of people want to play this sport, but this is a real sport. Like when I get in the ring with girls that maybe don't know what they're doing as well, and they're starting to hurt me, and I need to protect myself, I do what I got to do. If I need to calm somebody down, I know how to do that. You know how to put them in a hold and say, hey, you need to calm down. Do you want to wrestle? Do you want to entertain, or do you want to shoot on each other? And you have to be physically and mentally professional and capable of doing that. So that's where it's like, you want to play the wrestler, or do you want to really be one? And that's where I respect people that really know that background of, the hatchet can wrestling, where it all originated from, and then became pro wrestling. So I really love that that background of the Kazakhstan wrestling. I like to train with Loki and people that really have a background in that, because I'm not trying to play a wrestler. I'm trying to actually be one. I'm a competitor in that ring. I want to be taken serious. And nowadays, there's so many wrestling shows and there's so many people that are like, I'll be honest, they're not trained that well. And if I'm going to get in the ring with someone that's not trained that well, I'm not willing to break my neck or paralyze myself for anybody. And so I'm going to protect myself. I want to make sure that the person I'm working is going to be safe with me. And if they're not, then I'm going to know how to calm them down and put that hold on them and make them realize, hey, do you want to entertain? Do you want to wrestle?
No, I mean, that is awesome. I love the way you explained that analogy, too.
You got to be a badass, yeah.
Yeah. One of the guys, I watch MMA as well, and I used to do jiu-jitsu myself, and one of the guys that, like, I'm a big fan of is Josh Barnett. Because to me, like, he's an MMA fighter, but he's also a pro wrestler. And I've had guests on before, and we talk about this sometimes where, you know, I love MMA, but they don't always give the respect to pro wrestlers for being as tough as they are for the punishment. And it's a completely different animal. I understand that. But Josh Barnett is a guy that he has the catch-as-catch-ran background with Billy Robinson. He trains a lot of wrestlers like Shayna Baszler. And, you know, like, I know, like, I've seen interviews with him where he's talked about that companies he worked for, I think it was Strikeforce, they try to put down, like, what was your background in fighting? And he put down pro wrestler. And they didn't appreciate that. They ended up putting something else, like brawler or something. And I thought to myself, like, that's such a great thing. Like, there's a guy who's, like, trying to push that. And I like that you have that same attitude that, you know, okay, you know.
Yeah, pro wrestling.
Right, go ahead.
And well, I agree with you. I don't mean to cut you off. Yeah, like I said, the Kazakhstan wrestling where, you know, it's all really originated from and then became pro wrestling. You know, it's not phony. We learn the same submission moves that they do in MMA. We learn a lot of other things, but we're also entertainment.
Absolutely. And you know what? I was going to say, I want your opinion on this too. It's like what happened with Matt Hardy, I'm sure you heard the other night, where he took the fall and, you know, it looked like he was concussed.
He hit his head on the concrete, right?
Right. And looks like he was concussed. He had his legs falling underneath him. He ended up getting back there. And there was a lot of controversy of him getting back in the ring. And I was telling somebody, because somebody was asking, like, you know, like they said he took a test in between. I said, well, a lot of times if you watch an MMA fight, a guy's getting knocked around and the doctor will ask the fighter, are you ready? Well, the fighter or the pro wrestler in this situation is probably going to go yes. Now, the difference...
Oh, right. They're always going to do... Right. They're not going to back down. They're usually always going to say yes, even if they don't realize that they're concussed. And that's another thing, like the concussion, the things you put your body through, crazy.
And I was going to say, too, and one thing, too, like, and this being a difference between MMA and pro wrestling, yeah, MMA, you're bashing each other's heads. It's a different type of animal. I get that. But you know what? I bet a lot of MMA guys wouldn't have gone back out like Matt Hardy and have to climb a scaffold. I bet they wouldn't have done that when their legs were underneath them. And I'm sure they wouldn't have done what Mick Foley did and got thrown off a cell or took in thumbtacks. So
yeah.
It's a different animal.
Yes. So, yeah, it's nice to know that just some people can still respect both sides of it and not try to put one over the other, put one down.
Absolutely. I try to preach that as much as I can. I really love the fact that you want to be taken seriously. I think it's awesome that, you know, you get it, and it's been fun having you on. Now, is there anything you want to promote coming up? And, of course, social media?
Yes, absolutely. If you guys aren't familiar with my matches or me, you can search Amber Nova. You can watch a lot of my matches on YouTube. Follow me on my social media. It's Amber Nova 73 on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can also get geared up with me. I have autographed posters, photos, grease rags. I do combo deals. You can just shoot me a DM or an email if you're interested in getting any merchandise or geared up. I have upcoming shows that I'm actually really excited about. My first out-of-state booking since February will be October 24th with Hurricane Pro out in Texas, Beaumont, Texas. So I'm looking forward to that event. I have some other events getting lined up. A new company, New Breed Entertainment. You can check them out on my Twitter. And that'll be November 7th. They got some big names that are lining up for that show as well. So finally starting to take some out-of-state bookings. Hoping to see you guys. And yeah, just keep on rocking in the free world.
Awesome. That was great. I love when people put a spin on it. Thank you so much, Amber. You were great. I'm glad we got to actually do this.
All right, so that wraps us up for this week. Thank you again for listening to the Working Fans Podcast. So as always, you can find us on Twitter at FansWorking. Our Facebook page is Working Fans Wrestling Pod. We have email where you can reach out to us and let us know what you think also. That's workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, Working Fans Wrestling _pod. And then, as always, please continue to listen to us on Anchor.fm, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, all your major platforms. If you're following us on Apple Podcasts, which we are also on now, and YouTube, please make sure you subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. It helps us bring you these podcasts where we get to talk to you and talk with you every week.